Laudetur Jesus Christus, praise be Jesus Christ. Welcome to this live broadcast coming to you from St. Peter's Square on this the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Pope Francis will shortly come to the window of the Apostolic Palace and greet us before praying the traditional Angelus, as he does every Sunday at noon here in Rome. My name is Father Paul Samasumo, and I welcome all of you joining us on this broadcast. Welcome to those of you joining through our various Vatican media channels of Vatican Audio Live Events app, the Radio Vaticana app, those of you following us on the Vatican News web portal or website, Vatican News English YouTube channel, our Vatican Facebook live feed, to all of you, our television partners, various radio stations, among whom are our radio partners, websites throughout the world that are carrying this broadcast. Welcome, everyone. A most warm welcome to those of you joining through our dedicated American Sign Language broadcast, made possible with the help of our colleagues at Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas. Just in case you were not part of the earlier transmission we had this morning, Pope Francis this morning celebrated a special mass dedicated to grandparents and the elderly throughout the world. Today the Church marks the third World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly, which this year's theme is His Mercy is from Age to Age. You will recall that Pope Francis announced the establishment of World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly in 2021 as a reminder of the important role grandparents and the elderly play as a link between generations. Expect this morning's Mass were 6,000 grandparents and the elderly. Instead, there were 8,000 in the Basilica of St. Peter's. The grandparents, some of them were accompanied by their grandchildren and families, elderly residents living in retirement and residential nursing homes, as well as many elderly people who are active in parish, diocesan, and church associations. And those who are watching can see Pope Francis arriving at the window of the Apostolic Palace to start the Angelus.
Cari fratelli e sorelle,
Dear brothers and sisters, buongiorno. The Holy Father is flanked by one of the young men. Today's Gospel offers to us the parable of the wheat and the weeds. A farmer who has sown good seed in the field discovers that an enemy by night has sown darnel in it, a plant that looks very similar to wheat, but it is a weed. In this way, Jesus talks about our world, which in effect is like a large field, where God sows wheat and the evil one sows darnel, and therefore good and bad grow together. We see this from the news, in society, and even in families and in the church. And when along with the good wheat we see bad seeds, we are tempted to tear them up immediately, to make a clean sweep. But today the Lord warns us against this temptation. One cannot create a perfect world, and one cannot do good by hastily destroying what is bad, because this is even worse effects. We end up saying, as we say, throwing the baby away with the bath water. There is, however, a second field where we can and must make a clean-up. It is the field of the heart, the only place where we can intervene directly. There too, there is wheat and darnel. Indeed, it is precisely from there that both of them expand into the large field of the world. Brothers and sisters, Our hearts is the field of freedom. It is not a sterile laboratory, but rather an open and therefore vulnerable space. To cultivate it properly, it is necessary to take constant care of the delicate shoots of goodness and on the other to identify and uproot the weeds at an appropriate time. Let us look within and examine what happens, what is growing in us, that is good and evil. There is a good method for doing this. It is called the examination of conscience, which serves precisely to verify in the light of God what is happening in the field of the heart. After the field of the world and in the field of the heart, there is a third one. We can call this third camp, this third field, the neighbor's field. They are the people we associate with every day and whom we often judge. How easy it is to recognize their weeds. How we like to see the weeds in others. How difficult it is instead to see how to see the good grain that is growing in them. Let us remember, if we want to cultivate the fields of life, it is important to see and foremost the work of God, to learn to see the beauty of that the Lord has sown in them. Brothers and sisters, let us ask for the grace to be able to see in ourselves, but also in others, starting from those close to us. It is not a naive perspective, it is believing, it's a believing one, because God, the farmer of the great field of the world, loves to see goodness and to make it grow and make the harvest a field. So today we can ask ourselves some questions. Thinking of the field of the world, do I know how to resist the temptation of bundle all the grass together, to sweep others aside with my judgment? Then thinking of the field of the heart, am I honest in seeking out the bad weeds in myself and decisive in throwing them into the fire of God's mercy? And thinking of the neighbor's field, do I have the wisdom to see what is good without being discouraged by the limitations and the limits of others? And may the Virgin Mary help us to cultivate patiently what the Lord sows in the field of life, in my field and in the field of the others. The angel of the Lord declared unto Mary,
Benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostre. Amen.
Ecce ancilla Domini.
Fiat mi secundum verbum tuum.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen.
Et verbum caro factum est.
Et habitavit in nobis.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen.
Ora pro nobis, Santa Dei Genitrix.
Udini efficiamur promissionibus Christi.
Gratiam Tua, in questo Domine, mentibus nostris infunt, ut angelo nunziante Christi Filii Tui incarnazione in conio, per passionem eius et crucem, a resurrezione gloriam perducamur, per Christum Dominum nostrum.
Amen.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
Sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
Sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
Sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
pro fidelibus defuntis, requiem aeterna dona eis Domine.
Et lux perpetua lucea Deis.
Requiescant in pace.
Amen.
Sit nomen Domini benedictum.
Ex hoc nunc et usque in saeculum,
Aiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
qui feci celum et terram.
Benedicat vos, omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
Amen.
There we are. We just received a blessing from the Holy Father, who coincidentally is being flanked on the left and the right by a young man and an elderly lady, probably grandmother and grandson, probably. Today, as many young people are preparing to go to the World Youth Day, we celebrate the day, the third day for grandparents and the elderly. On my side, I have a grandparent and a grandson. An applause for both. The closeness of this day that we are celebrating today, of grandparents and the elderly, as well as the World Youth Day, is important because the future is constructed together in experience and in reciprocal care between young people and the elderly. Let us give a loud applause to all the grandparents and the elderly of the world. We are experimenting here and in many other countries difficult climatic conditions, and we have seen floods and high temperatures and fires, and we are seeing floods as we have seen also in South Korea, where 40 people died in South Korea recently. The Holy Father expressing his closeness to all the victims of the floods and families, and renewing his appeal to the authorities of the world to do something more concrete to climate change and also to reduce pollution in the world. It's something that is urgent, that concerns all of us, in order for us to safeguard our common home, the earth. And now, I would like to draw your attention to the dramatic events that are continuing to happen, especially in Africa. So much suffering. There are many who are abandoned in the desert, many migrants abandoned in the desert. I would like to make an appeal, especially to European authorities and also some African authorities, to do more to help the migrants, especially those that are stranded in the desert. The Mediterranean has now become a cemetery. May the Lord illumine our hearts, all of our hearts, so that we can express more solidarity and fraternity and a welcoming spirit. We pray also, continue to pray for peace, for Ukraine, which is continuing to, which is experiencing a lot of distraction, like last night in Odessa. Last night, the Transfiguration Cathedral in Odessa was attacked in the ongoing Russia-Ukrainian war. And I'd like to greet all those that are coming from Brazil in the square, from Uruguay, Poland, and also the students from Buenos Aires in Argentina. Another greeting to the Polish people there.
Di Cogorno e I partecipanti all'iniziativa Pedalar per la Paz e I bambini accolti da alcune comunità del Lazio.
And as always,
A tutti voi
greetings to all
auguro una buona
the
domenica.
pilgrims
Per
in
favore,
the
non
square.
dimenticatevi di pregare per me e anche preghiamo per questa
I
nonna,
wish you a
per
lovely
suo nipote
Sunday, and
e
please
con
do not
tutti i
forget to
nonni
pray
e
for
con i
me.
nipoti.
Do not forget also to
Buon
pray for this
pranzo,
grandmother here with me, and this grandson, and all the grandmothers, grandfathers, and the elderly of the world. Arrivederci.
Io scendo e vi lascio il posto.
So, always we are used to seeing Pope Francis on his own, but today he was flanked by a grandmother and a grandson on this special day where he has celebrated the day for grandparents and the elderly. This brings us to the end of the Angelus for today, the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time. As always, we invite you to visit the Vatican News website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube accounts for coverage of today's celebration and other Vatican and world news. My name is Father Paul Samasumo. On behalf of Vatican Media, I would like to thank you all for joining us, and a special thanks to our colleagues at Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas. Thank you, everyone. A blessed Sunday to you all. Laudetur Jesus Christus. Praise be Jesus Christ.